help us discuss environmental consciousness is Miss Wanjuhi Njoroge, who is a global shaper, and she's also a part of a campaign called 30 Days of Green. So please stay with us as she gives us the insight on how we can interact with our environment better. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As you already know, today's episode is dedicated to environmental consciousness. So is the fact that you feel that the environment is vulnerable the reason why you came up with the 30 Days of Green?
Yes, the environment is really vulnerable, but the environment is vulnerable because of our own actions. You know, we cannot expect to harvest what we've not planted. We are harvesting what we have planted. Nairobi has been experiencing floods, for instance, many times. And when the city council officers go to unblock the sewer system, they find bottles, they find polythene bags. So we have contributed to what is happening in our environment. Yes, so we have fed it polythene bags. It is now reacting to us.
You know, we are always tossing the ball from one player to another. And now that you've articulated the fact that it's pretty much just a result of what we are giving, it's just giving back to us. What is it that we can do to mitigate and to sort of reduce that harm?
There's a saying that says, before you even ask what the government can do, it is important that we ask, what can I do as an individual? The solution will start with you and I. Me as an individual, if I'm taking yogurt in the car, for instance, what's the first thing that I do? Do I open the window and throw that container out? If I've taken soda, do I open the window and throw that bottle out? Or do I keep it inside my bag and wait for my destination, find a dustbin and dispose that thing in there? You get? So it will start with you and me. That is the starting point. Me making a conscious decision of not polluting my environment, taking care of it, because nobody else will take care of it. It will have to be me and you taking care of the environment.
So on that note, let me ask you, what happens in a situation where I cannot avoid that? For instance, if I go to do my shopping, I have to put my shopping in a paper bag, or that is how my shopping is packaged. When I take a soda, probably I don't have the knowledge or the resources to understand how I need to manage what I'm doing to ensure that I don't create harm to the environment. How does that again play out, and or how do you handle that?
We really can't say that you do not have the knowledge. The only people who are excused to not have the knowledge is a newborn or a very old grandmother. I mean, it's very insulting to see somebody who've gone all the way to high school level littering the environment. You raised a very good point of supermarkets. And supermarkets are key stakeholders. They are the leading distributors of free polythene bags. You do not have to have your shopping packaged in the polythene bag. You can carry your own bag, the Saiso woven bags. We call them the kiondos. And have your shopping packed in it. In fact, it's easier to carry. It doesn't damage your fingers because you can hang it on the shoulder, on the back.
But then again, about supermarkets, how can I as an individual, you know, even if I was and provide my own packing, I'll be looked at as if I'm crazy, because, you know, in the real sense, that is just how we carry our shopping, you know.
First and foremost is nobody will think you're crazy, and you should not be bothered by what people think about you. But there is a role that supermarkets can play in terms of reducing environmental pollution and conserving the environment. They can start giving incentives. They can take it up and make it part of them. They can start giving incentives to shoppers that if you come with your own bag, we will maybe reduce or give you a gift, or reduce the cost of your shopping by this percentage. And that could highly contribute to people and encourage a culture where people do not rely on the polythene bag, but think you're crazy. And you should not be bothered by what people think about you. But there is a role that supermarkets can play in terms of reducing environmental pollution and conserving the environment. They can start giving incentives. They can take it up and make it part of them. They can start giving incentives to shoppers that if you come with your own bag, we will maybe reduce or give you a gift, or reduce the cost of your shopping by this percentage. and that could highly contribute to people and encourage a culture where people do not rely on the polythene bag, but they buy a woven basket that they can keep for many years to come.
Would you please engage us a little bit more on what the stakeholders can do to join in that active role?
Yeah, the many stakeholders, it's an ecosystem. There are many stakeholders involved. We are talking about schools, for instance, raising the next generation that is conscious of the environment. We're talking about churches and mosques and other religious institutions that have big numbers of people. And this can be used to create awareness around the environment. They can take up active roles of cleaning the environment, take up active roles of planting trees. Stakeholders can set up bins for litter collection. You know, so these are some of the active roles that other stakeholders can participate in.
So is this campaign tapping into that energy?
Yes, we are reaching out to several stakeholders, and we are still calling upon them to come and join the conversation. It's a conversation of creating awareness. You know, we are discussing ways we can improve our environment and make it better, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. Barack Obama said that we have not inherited this country from past generations. We've just borrowed it from future generations. So in that thought line, it is important that we join in the conversation and see how best can we now, going forward, we accept our faults, learn from our mistakes, and how can we make them better. So we are reaching out to many other stakeholders. Anybody who feels that the environment, we are not doing justice to the environment, can join in the conversation. Yeah.
So in your appeal, I believe you're making appeal. What has been the response? Which group of the society has been your greatest support? Is it the youth? Is it children? Is it women? Who?
Surprisingly, it's been the children. Children in primary schools are like sponges. They absorb. And you find that as global shapers in Nairobi, we go out and we target primary schools. When we plant trees, these kids are very committed to watering the trees. When we visit the second time, they tell us, oh, all the trees have survived. You know, when are we planting trees again? So the children are really taking up, and we can learn from the children. You know, we say that a tree is molded when it's still young. We can learn a lot from the children because they are interested in conserving the environment. So the people who've been very, very responsive have been the community, the children. Yes.
Please allow me to go back to 30 Days of Green. And I want, as in, how has the campaign been received, and how far are you willing to go? And is it as it is, talking about the laws, talking about the policies, talking about your agenda as a group, do you think it's practical, and do you think it's going to have tangible results?
Well, 30 Days of Green seeks to create awareness, and creating awareness around environment. This is recycling, this is waste management, this is friendly cities. So it covers everything under the environment. We are not just targeting Kenya. This is a conversation we will have in Kenya in the 47 counties. This is a conversation we will have in the East African region. This is a conversation we will have in Africa. We are looking for a lasting solution. We are looking for ways all of us can participate in making this country better. The environment in Kenya, the environment in East Africa, the environment in Africa better, and in the rest of the world as well.
So, Ms. Njoroge, what are your thoughts? Because this is a conversation that we cannot exhaust. As an individual, what is it that we feel needs to be done? What is it that you feel our government needs to do?
Again, borrowing from Rwanda. Rwanda in 2008 completely banned the use of plastic bags. And the Kenyan government in 2011 also banned the use of plastics with up to 60 microns because they are easily flown by wind up to 100 kilometers from their source of origin. But you find that unless polythene is completely banned, our environment will remain to be dirty. And by banning plastics, we'll be creating employment for young people and women and persons living with disability, because people will adapt their woven baskets, the kiondo. People will take up the paper package, the ones that are branded mostly by young people and also groups of people, persons living with disability. So by banning plastics, for instance, which is one of the things that the government can do, they will be creating more opportunity for the citizens. But also, the government has a role in reducing taxation for things like paper to attract more people, to join the manufacture of paper, for instance. If it's glass instead of plastic bottles, the government can also come up with incentives to lure manufacturers to go for glass as opposed to plastic. So it's a lot of policy formulation and implementation of the same. But you and I have a role of conserving the environment.
Alongside saving the environment, I also stand to benefit.
For instance, if we were to plant fruit trees along the roads, imagine we will not even be struggling with food. Because as you're walking on the road, you will find an avocado. You can pick and go with it at home. You know that is food already. So it's a lot of many good things that would come out of conserving our environment and being environmental conscious.
Wow.
Yes.
And as we plan to wind up on that note, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for the good work that you're doing. Well, viewer, there you have it. Please keep that feedback coming. And as you've heard from our expert, there's a lot that we can do. Let's stop blaming each other. Let's stop blaming the government especially. Just do the little that you can. And before you know it, the world will surely be a better place. I'm Farida Patrick, and this is Earth Check. Did you know that there is an alternative to the rather messy and environmentally hazardous dump site? Well, the alternative is what we call a landfill, where you get all that solid waste together, you compress it, and you cover it with a thin layer of soil, while maintaining the conditions in a semi-aerobic state. No bad smell, no leakage of toxic leachate to the water system, and it is completely environmentally sound. Well, now you know. And this week on our degradation segment, we received some pictures